So like a month ago, I saw a TikTok about this new Google Autism survey.
All right, so this is why I love watching TikTok. I follow this creator. I like the content they produce, and even if I like the content creator, I still check on things that are said because I want to know. And her video, you should go watch in its entirety. It is very important, especially if you think you have autism. If you have autism and you don't know what she's talking about, you need to listen to the whole thing. It's a little bit longer. Her videos tend to be, I like them. They're done well and they're usually informative. Now, I'm gonna put some information out there, not to discredit her. I still respect her, and I think the information is still important. And I'm gonna add some additional details. And I understand in the story she's talking about a friend and that friend's fears, and I get it. It's valid. But essentially, there is discrimination in other countries. If you decide to leave the United States, you may not be able to get a visa or be able to immigrate to those countries because they discriminate against autism. I'm putting it harshly like that, and I hate being clickbaity. It is and is not, though. Are they discriminatory against autism? Yes and no, and we'll get into the nuance of that in a moment. But here's the important information to know. Basically, her friend has decided to wait to get a diagnosis, to take any testing to find out if they're autistic, because they're going to be getting married soon and moving back to Brazil, essentially. And if they get an autism diagnosis, that will not happen because Brazil does not allow that. Now, I did a quick Google search, and I could not verify that information. I could not verify that Brazil will not take you in as an immigrant if you have autism. There's nothing I could find. It says that there is a marked increase of people with autism coming into the country. I saw articles for that, but I didn't see anything there. And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I could not find supporting information for that. What does that mean? That means that there may be something that person had seen that gave them enough of a feeling of, hey, I should be careful, that they've decided to wait. And I can appreciate that. Now, here is the dismaying news, and hopefully the original content creator hears this because I think they should be aware of this. There's an article on Wikipedia called Discrimination Against Autistic People. That's where I'm looking at this information because I had to look in this. There's a section talking about the prevalence of it and stuff. We're going to talk about a few of the countries that were on this list, and I'm trying to find it here, but I could not. Hold on just 1 second while I scroll over. Okay, sorry about that, guys. It was at the bottom. The block looked different. So Canada had policies against autistic people, and apparently that was changed at some point, but not entirely. I'll dig into that a little bit deeper. And then some other countries you should be aware of. The four main countries. This comes from another article from Stranger Miles is where I'm getting this from, but I checked these on the countries themselves, and I'll give you some details on some of these. But Australia does not allow you to immigrate if you have autism. New Zealand, that was very disappointing for me. Singapore and the United Kingdom. Now, I dug around trying to find information about whether these were true or not, and here's why I say it is and is not true. Most of these countries, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, have a dollar amount rule. Now, UK's I couldn't find, but in their immigration policy, if you start digging through health policies, it talks about how they make a decision based on your severity and how much they think you're going to cost the national health system, the NHS. Australia and New Zealand have a $41,000, as far as I could tell, it's still in place, $41,000 a year limit. That means if your healthcare costs are going to cost that country more than $41,000 a year, you will get denied entry based on health basis. Now, it's important to note, we're not talking about deductibles. We're talking about if the total cost of your healthcare is $41,000. So, for example, I'm asthmatic, and an Advair discus can easily be $1,000. Now, I'm not going to hit 41 of those in a year. I'm probably going to need, 3 or 4 of them over the course of a year, but that still adds up, in addition to other care I may need. Now, people were saying that, no, my country's not like that, but then people were showing them factual evidence. There's a story out of New Zealand about that where, a girl and her parents were going to be going to New Zealand to live there, to stay there, to get citizenship there. The girl had autism. She was like 13. They said no. The government said no, and they were like, but the parents are fine. It's like, that's really horrible. Now, I can understand both sides of this. One side is the side of, that's very discriminatory. And it's wrong. The second side, though, is health costs can be a burden. And if suddenly everybody started moving to a country that was developed, that had good healthcare in place, it could destabilize that country. Do I think there's a better way? Yes, I always think there's a better way. And I agree with the argument people make that if you're functioning enough that you're able to pay taxes, then you should be fine to get there. Now, what I could find more specifically for New Zealand, arguments made for New Zealand and for the UK, was that there is a feeling about autistic people based on outdated stereotypes and bad information. And the main one I found was that autistic people are hard to work with. If I am autistic, I can confirm that's true. We have difficulties working in normal environments. That's a thing. And I've heard many people with autism express that. It can be difficult. So the general consensus in some of these developed nations is that because you're difficult to work with, you'll have a hard time holding a job. I strongly believe that's the reason I have issues holding down some jobs, because of that. But the thought is that because you can't hold down a job, you're just not going to be able to acclimate well to society. Therefore, you'll be a burden upon society and you shouldn't be there. So be aware that discrimination is there. And yes, autism in these 4 countries is listed as a disability, which is very disheartening. Many people have expressed the same sentiment I'm about to, which is, if that's the case, I have no interest in getting diagnosis. I have no interest in expressing too much about autism for myself because I'm worried it's limiting. I already have this feeling, I would say at this point, that I know that if I got an autism diagnosis tomorrow, even if I stayed in the United States, jobs now become 200 times harder to get because nobody wants to hire an autistic. Not unless they foresee like Rain Man, right? Not unless they're so discriminatory that they think you're like Rain Man and you're somehow going to make them a ton more money. Other than that, they don't want you, though. And that is so difficult. And getting good care is also difficult, too. Another content creator on here talked about how difficult it can be to get a diagnosis. It can be a long wait time, and it's expensive because it's not common health care. So I felt very depressed after hearing this news. It was very disheartening. Yes, I felt discriminated against. Yes, it felt awful. But I just had to realize that it's not anything different. It's just information that was always there I didn't know. So what are your thoughts on this? Were you aware of this? And again, hopefully the original content creator sees this and maybe she'll have some comments or, can expand on that. Or if not, just hopefully this information is useful to anybody that sees this. Do you think policies should change? Also, one little tidbit for you before I go, just to throw this out there. In the U.S. here, the Trump administration supported restrictive immigration policies that discriminated against autistic people. And the policy that they wanted to put forth was to immediately deport people with autism. Not existing citizens, but anybody that was coming in would be deported, which is ridiculous. Very restrictive. But anyway, guys.